It's a very erotic scene, and
well, it's not. That's very funny because are on the train.
Hollywood sells perfection, but the truth behind the spotlight is rarely flawless. Most stars spend their entire careers protecting their image, hiding real stories behind carefully crafted interviews and red carpet smiles. But Diane Lane never lived that way. From the beginning, she chose honesty over the Hollywood act, refusing to shrink herself to fit someone else's expectations. Now, at 60, she is finally lifting the curtain on the private relationships that shaped her life and career. And the 7 famous men she had dated will surprise fans, challenge assumptions, and reveal a side of her journey the world was never supposed to see. For decades, whispers about Diane Lane floated through industry circles. They were spoken quietly at late-night gatherings in secluded mansions in the Hollywood Hills, shared between agents and producers, whispered among actors at rap parties, and occasionally hinted at in the tabloids. Fans wondered who had truly known her, not as a screen icon, but as a woman complex, passionate, intelligent, unpredictable, and unafraid of desire. For years, the stories remained unconfirmed. Now, the silence is broken. For the first time, she reveals the 7 men who shaped her private journey behind the scenes of Fame. 7 names that represent passion, power, vulnerability, secrecy, discovery, and evolution. They were not just co-stars. They were mentors, mirrors, temptations, emotional challenges, and, in some cases, dangerous turning points in her life. This is not a sanitized Hollywood fairy tale. This is the reality. The first revelation takes us back to the early 1980s, when Diane Lane was still emerging, and the film world saw her as a new phenomenon. On the set of the Cotton Club, she met a man who was already a global sensation, Richard Gere. At the time, he was the face of a new wave of romantic leading men, attractive, commanding, and desired around the world. To audiences, he projected confidence wrapped in vulnerability. Behind the scenes, the chemistry was unmistakable. Their attraction didn't develop slowly. It simmered instantly. They found themselves alone for long rehearsal hours, talking, learning each other's rhythms, exchanging looks that carried more weight than dialogue. She was young enough to be discovering who she was and old enough to know when something demanded to be explored. Their connection had to stay secret. One leak could have derailed both careers, but their time together taught Diane Lane a lasting truth. Power isn't always expressed loudly. Sometimes it is experienced in silence and secrecy. Even years later, at industry events, one look between them was enough to remind them of what once was. It was not a love story, it was a lesson, a forbidden memory carved into the earliest years of her rise. If Richard Gere was heat, then Mickey Rourke was a lightning strike. Their worlds collided during a time when Mickey Rourke was at his peak, magnetic, volatile, and impossible to ignore. Unlike the strategic tension of her first secret affair, his presence hit like an emotional explosion. Mickey Rourke didn't seduce with words or methodical pursuit. He lived intensely, and everyone near him felt that intensity. He pushed emotional boundaries, challenging those around him to confront themselves without lies or masks. He made her experience what it meant to surrender control, not as weakness, but as a deeper form of truth. But Mickey Rourke was not a safe choice. His world was unpredictable, always one spark away from chaos. Being close to him meant walking a tightrope between exhilaration and emotional danger. Then came a man who played the opposite role in her life, Christopher Walken, one of the most enigmatic talents of his generation. They crossed paths during the filming of At Close Range, a project that already carried emotional weight. Christopher Walken was unlike anyone she had encountered before. He didn't overwhelm with volume or recklessness. He was deliberate, calm, and intellectually dangerous in the most subtle way. He had a talent for seeing people deeply, understanding their fears, their desires, their illusions. A conversation with him didn't feel casual, it felt like a game of psychological chess. With him, seduction was not forceful, it was guided. He moved slowly, spoke slowly, observed everything, and always seemed to be calculating a deeper layer beneath the moment. Their connection unfolded after long filming days, when the rest of the crew had gone home, and the emotional weight of their characters still lingered in the air. He studied her like a puzzle, unlocking new dimensions of her understanding of herself. Their relationship wasn't routine, wasn't scheduled, and was never fully predictable. It came and went with the rhythm of their careers, but the psychological impact of that bond stayed with her. Christopher Walken showed her that attraction can be intellectual, internal, and intensely quiet, and that sometimes the experiences that never explode become the ones that echo the longest. The fourth man to leave a deep impression on Diane Lane was Sean Penn, a performer whose talent was matched by his unfiltered honesty. From early in his career, Sean Penn gained a reputation for being uncompromising on set and in life. When Diane met him, she was entering a new chapter, determined to evolve as an actress and pursue more meaningful work. Sean Penn didn't flatter, charm, or hide behind Hollywood polish. If he wanted something, he said it. If he felt something, he showed it. His directness wasn't disrespectful, just real, and incredibly rare in an industry built on performance. Even when the cameras stopped, their time together was brief but transformative. Sean Penn showed Diane that judgment holds no power over those who refuse to live in fear, and that authenticity, even when costly, is a form of personal victory. But the fifth man on her list entered far more dangerous territory: Kevin Costner. America saw Kevin Costner as the perfect leading man. He played upright heroes, good husbands, reliable fathers. His on-screen image was so wholesome that the world assumed his life was the same. But when Diane Lane met him at a high-profile charity event in Beverly Hills, she discovered that appearances can be some of the greatest illusions in Hollywood. From across the room, Kevin Costner watched her. The conversation that followed wasn't reckless, it was controlled. His pursuit was gradual and brilliantly calculated. Every encounter was arranged with precision. The reality was stunning. He operated a double life. There were cover identities, safe locations, trusted middlemen, private calls, and carefully managed alibis designed to ensure no one ever knew. The secrecy wasn't accidental, it was operational. For Diane Lane, the experience was captivating and disturbing. She felt chosen, desired, and deeply connected, but she also felt the weight of deception. Eventually, the emotional burden became too heavy. She realized she wasn't just participating in a romance. She was participating in the construction of an illusion. And the lesson stayed with her. The most charming men are often the ones who hide the most. The sixth chapter of her private story brings us to a figure known for his brilliance: Robert De Niro. Their paths crossed at a film festival in the early 1990s. And what emerged wasn't impulsive attraction, it was intellectual gravity. Robert De Niro didn't rely on charisma or romantic pursuit. He led through intellect. He listened not superficially, but with depth. He paid attention. He asked the kind of questions that only someone trying to understand your soul's architecture would ask. Their connection unfolded like a duel of minds. He studied her like he studied characters, methodically, patiently, intensely. He wanted to understand not just what she felt, but why she felt it. With him, she experienced something rare: the fusion of emotional and intellectual attraction at the same time. Robert De Niro redefined what intimacy could mean for her. He showed her that the mind can be more powerful than any touch. He taught her that true connection is not just lived, it is analyzed, shared, explored, and reflected. Finally, the seventh and most unexpected man, Nicolas Cage. By the time Nicolas Cage entered her life, Diane Lane thought she had experienced every shade of desire, every level of chemistry. But Cage brought something she had never encountered: total unpredictability. With him, nothing could be anticipated. He approached life the way he approached acting: completely committed, entirely unrestrained, and never predictable. Being around him was like stepping into a script that rewrote itself every few minutes. One day he was intense and philosophical, the next wild and adventurous. He didn't fit into rules, not Hollywood's, not the public's, not anyone's. With him, she learned to surrender control, not as something taken from her, but something she chose to let go of. Nicolas Cage reminded her that some of the best experiences in life come from not knowing what will happen next. Now, at 60, Diane Lane looks back with a wisdom few Hollywood icons ever reach. Every relationship became a lesson. Richard Gere taught her that power can be quiet. Mickey Rourke revealed truth within chaos. Christopher Walken showed the seduction of intellect. Sean Penn proved the strength of honesty. Kevin Costner exposed the power of illusion. Robert De Niro demonstrated emotional intelligence. And Nicolas Cage revealed the freedom of unpredictability. These aren't confessions, they are her truth. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.